All right. We are in chapter 8 of book 2. Chapter 8 of book 2 in the book is called The Death Day Party. That's not what we're going to call it. We're calling it Enemies of the Heir. Beware. Yeah. I absolutely love this chapter. I feel like this is one of the chapters that kind of brings that je ne sais quoi, that essence of the book, the parts that obviously the movie, watching the movies, it kind of lacks that. But do you want to share who our new characters are?
I will. So in this chapter, we meet Sir Patrick Delaney Podmore and the Headless Hunt. Mm-hmm. We also meet Moaning Myrtle. Mm-hmm. And then there are mentions, and I think we may kind of in passing meet some of various ghosts. Mm-hmm. The Wailing Widow, Madam Z. Nettles of Topsham, and Warlock DJ Prod of Didsbury.
Yeah. Yeah, Madam Z. Nettles and Warlock DJ Prod are mentions. But yeah, the others we do get to see.
I think the Wailing Widow might be a mention as well, though.
The others, the ones that we do get to meet more, I wouldn't say in depth, but in passing, are several ghosts.
Yeah. And then Sir Podmore and Moaning Myrtle.
Yeah. Those have a chunkier bit. All right. Well, we left off with Harry being like, didn't Lockmore, hello, let's start over. Didn't Lockhart hear the voice that Harry heard? Like, he was in detention, he heard a voice. Lockhart was like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. Nobody, it was only Harry in Harry's head or something. He doesn't know. That's where we left off. And now it's October. It's the beginning of October, and it is cold. And because there is a damp chill in the grounds, people are getting sick. There are these waves that go. As a teacher, I know that sometimes you just have to keep kids' faces away from you during the cold seasons. So there's a cold going around, and potentially also a flu going around. And the lovely nurse, Madame Pomfrey, has developed a pepper up potion. I love the sound of that. A pepper up potion. Like, I want to drink it just when I'm feeling like a little blue, because I feel like it will just,
pep you up.
Yeah. So she's giving it to all the kids. And then Percy, being, I wrote in my notes, big bro purse. That was just like what came. Bullied Ginny into drinking some because she had been kind of looking a little off, a little lethargic, shall we say, a little pale. And then Hagrid, his pumpkins, if we recall, Hagrid was growing pumpkins and he was helping them grow. And now, apparently, they're the size of garden sheds, which, that's like the size of a car, right? Like a little bit smaller than a car. That's insane.
Debatable, because it's taller than like a sedan, but it's pretty much as long and as wide as a car.
Yeah, I think it depends on the size of the shed you bought.
Yeah.
Or built. But yeah, that's insane. That's pretty cool though. I wonder what you could carve with that. Ooh, do they do carving contests in the wizarding world?
Not really. He just puts
There's
the pumpkins
never-
inside the... They're used as decoration inside the feast.
Yeah, there's no mention.
I feel like... I don't know. I don't remember. There was some way that they were decorating.
I mean, they decorate for the feast, right? Like with candy and floating things.
Yeah, they go inside, but I'm trying to remember if they carve it into bowls or something and like put something inside or not.
Like they put candles in them, don't they? Use them like little lantern type situations.
I'll have to see. I'll have to look ahead in the chapter. I can't remember.
Okay. We might be able to go back to book 1 as well, because when the troll comes, they were at the Halloween feast as well.
That's true, because there
may have been some mention there too. Well, we'll look into it. Oliver Wood, if you guys recall, Oliver Wood is the head of the Gryffindor Quidditch team, and this crazy captain decided that they're doing all sorts of practices. But the funny thing is, Fred and George are spies, and Fred and George, if you recall correctly, what broomstick do they have? Sorry.
Oh, they have clean sweep 5s.
Oh, sorry. Yes, they have clean sweep 5s, and they are spying on the Slytherin team because the Slytherin team has
brand new Nimbus 2001s.
Yes, all 7 of them, right? All 7 players. And
they're shooting through the air like missiles, is what George and Fred are reporting back.
Exactly. That they're so fast that they're like little blurs and they're shooting through the air like missiles. Fun. That's good competition, I guess. And then Harry is super exhausted from practice, full of mud, walking through the hallways, and he runs into Nick, nearly headless Nick. He is the Gryffindor ghost, the ghost of Gryffindor Tower. And I think it's really interesting. Both of them are down. Both of them are feeling a little not under the weather, but just like, yes.
They need some pepper up potion.
Exactly. Do they? I don't know. Can it help for this, or is it just for a cold and flu? Is it for your body? Is it for your runny nose? Is it for the fever?
I kind of feel like it's to knock all the stuff out, because it says that it also makes steam come out of your ears, because it made Jenny Weasley look like her head was on fire.
Well, because she's a redhead.
Right. And she had the steam coming out of her ears. So I don't know if it's like a hot toddy where it like goes in and attacks, whatever, or if it's...
For those of you who are 21 and up, or of drinking age, wherever you're watching, a hot toddy will do the trick when you're feeling under the weather. Oh, and what if you make it with peppermint tea? Is that a pepper up potion?
Why not?
Yes,
I love peppermint flavor.
For the next Harry Potter party, pepper up potion.
I like it.
Okay. Back to
if we make it
with Fireball and peppermint tea?
Well, I was thinking about an adult drink that was pepper up potion themed, but anywho, sorry, we digress. Let's get back to the chapter.
I know. Like, that's why a peppermint tea with Fireball.
Oh.
Because the hot toddy's made with
hot toddy does have alcohol in it. Duh.
Yeah.
Ooh, peppermint tea and Fireball. That kind of sounds like a pepper up potion. Pep, 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 pep.
Out to your sinuses.
Yeah,
All
well.
So Harry very kindly asks, I really like seeing all of these things about Harry, how he's so
Empathetic.
Yeah, empathetic, genuine, and like has never once allowed his upbringing to mar that in any way. So he asks Nick, he's like, how are you, Nick? You look a little troubled. And Nick's like, well, you do too. And Nick explains to him how they're both in their fields, and how he didn't make it. He doesn't have the requirements to join the headless hunt. And he says that this isn't something that he really cared about in the first place, but his face does not match what he's saying, right? He's like, yeah, I didn't want to join anyway. And he's like really frustrated and muttering under his breath, like,
It says, in spite of his airy tone, there was a look of great bitterness on his face.
poor baby. And we come to find out that he takes out a letter from his pocket, and basically it says that he does not meet the requirements, and he shakes the letter open and reads it furiously. And it said, you want to read it for us?
It says, we can only accept huntsmen whose heads have parted company with their bodies. You will appreciate that it would be impossible otherwise for members to participate in hunt activities, such as horseback head juggling and head polo. It is with the greatest regret, therefore, that I must inform you that you do not fulfill our requirements. With very best wishes, Sir Patrick Delaney Podmore.
Half an inch of skin and sinew was all that was holding his head on his body. But I love how he says, most people would think that's good and beheaded. But oh no, it's not enough for Sir Properly Decapitated Podmore. Oh gosh.
Oh, I love that part.
Dated. Okay, I love that, because I mean, would you think that that's properly decapitated?
I mean, I guess as a ghost, he can't snap the rest of the half inch off. I don't know.
That sucks.
That does suck.
I would love to just help him out, take some scissors to it or something. And
I'm
for those of you
because
that are wondering, the way that he got this way, with half an inch of skin and sinew just hanging his head, was because his head was whacked 45 times with a blunt axe.
His neck.
Now, I mean, yeah, I'm assuming he did something bad. I'm assuming he did something illegal which caused him to be beheaded, right?
Yeah, but don't they have a machine thingy, a guillotine for that? Well, maybe not in 1462.
But somebody has to sharpen the blade.
That's true.
The decapitator, like the person in charge of performing the act, literally they're in charge of sharpening their blade of whatever.
No, but he specifically said an axe. So yeah, somebody was not doing their job, because you would think, I mean, it's an axe and you're decapitating someone, you need to like, but no, 45. 45 times.
45 times.
45 times he got whacked in the neck with a blunt axe and still wasn't
That's gotta hurt.
properly decapitated, according to Sir Properly Decapitated Podmore.
There you go. And then, of course, kindly, Nick returns the favor and asks Harry how he's feeling. And Harry was like about to, get into it when Mrs. Norris comes. Who's Mrs. Norris?
Filch's red-eyed cat.
Yeah. That's scary. Oh, yellow eyes.
Maybe it's in the movie they make her eyes red.
Maybe. But he looked down, find himself gazing into a pair of lamp-like yellow eyes. So this is Norris. I don't know if she's just a cat or if she's some sort of magical animal or has some sort of magical something.
So some of the theories suggest that she may be a maledictus.
Right. Yes. So can you explain what that is? Because nobody knows.
So in the Fantastic Beasts movie series, we find out that Nagini is a maledictus. And what that means is that a female wizard has some kind of curse put on them where they turn into an animal. And over time, they'll get to the point where they'll just stay that animal and won't be able to turn back. So Nagini was a snake. And some people, in theory, later on, think that perhaps Mrs. Norris was also a maledictus and was originally a woman who then was cursed and became a cat. Because it's weird how Filch and Mrs. Norris communicate. And even more so when we get further into this chapter and you learn some things about Filch.
Exactly. Okay, so Nick is trying to warn Harry. He's like, dude, you gotta go because Filch got the flu and he is just not having it right now with people. And so he tries to get away.
Because remember, they were playing outside in the rain. They were practicing in the rain, so Harry's dripping mud everywhere.
Right. And so he's trying to get away, but it almost seems like Mrs. Norris has this, I don't know, special power that keeps him kind of rooted in the spot. And then here comes Filch, and he's coming out from behind a tapestry because, mind you, Filch has been working at this school for a very long time, and he knows things. There's knows
secret passages,
which is very cool. Okay, so he catches Harry and he's like, yeah, you're done for now. Come with me. And they go to Filch's office. Harry's never been in there. Of course, why would he? Students would like to avoid Filch's office at all costs. It's a dingy, like, dungeon windowless room with just a lamp. And I love the fact that Harry gets a chance to see the records, kind of like, we'll just glance at from afar, the punishments, right? Like all the punishments that he's laid out.
Wait. Just noticing and having a visceral reaction to the fact that it says a faint smell of fried fish lingered about the place.
Yes.
Ew. Filch's office is dank and windowless and smells like fish.
How do you air it out?
I don't know, but ew.
Like,
well, maybe magic if it wasn't Filch.
I mean, can you drill a hole in the wall to kind of...
Magic.
Does that work for air?
I mean, I don't see why you couldn't, like, circulate the air or something.
Cause a tornado inside your room?
Something. Just ew.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So, Harry gets a chance to see, like, the cabinets of all the punishments, and he notices that Fred and George have a drawer all to themselves, just them. One whole drawer is dedicated to Fred and George punishments.
Does not surprise me, but I'd be interested to know how much space Lee Jordan takes up, because a lot of times he's the third one in on their shenanigans.
Yeah. Or I have a feeling that Fred and George maybe take the fall a lot more, that they really don't care. And they're like, you can get away and we'll take the fall.
Maybe. Because they're very good about going to the line, but not really stepping over it most of the time. They frustrate their mother, but don't really she doesn't get enraged. Like, she knows who her kids are. And most of the time, it's a smack them upside the back of their head sort of thing.
I have a feeling that they tiptoe a whole lot more, and maybe even cross that line a whole lot more when they're in school.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Because they respect their mom. As crazy as they are, they're good kids of sound upbringing, and they respect their mom.
Yeah, but they can end up in detention without anybody writing home. That's why I said, even there, they know where the line is. They're over there and they're acting up and they're doing stuff they're not supposed to be doing, but not necessarily things that warrant a letter being written home. So there's probably things they're doing that Molly doesn't know about.
Yeah.
They're doing detentions and writing essays and things.
Yeah. I know. Boys. These boys. So while Harry is looking around, Filch is furiously writing out his little punishment. And he's like, okay, name, Harry Potter, crime. Harry's like, it was just a little mud. And he's like, okay, but for me, that's an hour of cleaning. So, which, that's kind of weird, but okay. Remember, you can use your wand and clean stuff in a snap, right? Right? Anyway, then as he's writing this paper, he hears a bang outside, and he's
like, wait. What was his crime?
Oh, befouling the castle. Befouling.
Which is so dramatic.
You don't hear that every day. Okay, so tracking in mud is befouling the castle. I wonder
so dramatic.
I wonder what the crimes were for Fred and George. What he calls those crimes.
Oh, there's no telling. They've done everything, I'm sure.
So he hears a bang outside, and he automatically assumes that it's the poltergeist Peeves. And so he runs out, and he's, basically leaves Harry in the office. And so Harry is just like, okay, well, I guess I should just wait here, make myself comfortable in this moth-eaten chair next to the desk. Yum, yum. That's probably where part of the smell comes from. And while he's sitting there, his eyes kind of glance over the stuff on the desk, and he sees something called Quick Spell. And it says, a correspondence course in beginner's magic. Now, mind you, if it's Filch's, because we're in Filch's office, Filch is an adult, right?
And a rather old adult at that.
And works at a magic school. So you would think that he is a full adult wizard, right? So, of course, this piques Harry's interest. So he looks through the envelope and pulls out a sheaf of parchment from inside. Now, here's where we get some interesting little mentions that Christina had discussed before. Do you want to read these out?
It says, now mind you, this is a purple envelope with curly silver writing. So when Harry pulls out this parchment, it's also curly silver writing. And it says, feel out of step in the world of modern magic? Find yourself making excuses not to perform simple spells?
Like cleaning?
Ever been taunted for your woeful handiwork? There is an answer. Quick Spell is an all-new, fail-safe, quick result, easy learn course. Hundreds of witches and wizards have benefited from the Quick Spell method. Madam Z. Nettles of Topsham writes, I had no memory for incantations, and my potions were a family joke. Now, after a Quick Spell course, I am the center of attention at parties, and friends beg for the recipe of my scintillation solution. Oh boy, she makes a scintillation solution. Wonder what the hell that is. And Warlock DJ Prod of Didsbury says, my wife used to sneer at my feeble charms, but 1 month into your fabulous Quick Spell course, and I succeeded in turning her into a yak. Thank you, Quick Spell.
Is she still a yak? Did he just leave her as a yak?
I don't know, but the important thing is he was able to do it successfully because of Quick Spell.
Congratulations. Okay. So obviously Harry is fascinated by what he found, and he keeps reading through the envelope. And he's like thinking to himself, why would Filch need Quick Spell? And he's like, wait, does this mean that he's not a proper wizard? And then lesson 1 is like holding your wand, some useful tips. And literally, as he's reading that, he hears Filch's steps. He hears steps, and he figures Filch is coming back. So he quickly shoves everything back in the envelope, throws it back onto the desk just as the door opened. And Filch is like, that vanishing cabinet was extremely valuable. So apparently, as we said before, Filch knows things. He knows ways and whatnot about the castle, including a vanishing cabinet. And then he's like, okay, we'll have Peeves out this time. And then he looks at Harry, and then he looks at the Quick Spell, and he looks at Harry, and he looks at the Quick Spell envelope, and he's like, Did you? And he's all of a sudden very concerned. And his face turns bright red. And Harry was like, oh, here it comes. He's going to get mad. But he didn't. He was not mad. I think he was yeah. Exactly. I think he was a combination of like anxious, embarrassed, and just maybe just anxious and embarrassed. I don't know. But he was not trying to have Harry stay in his office any longer. So literally, he just said, "Don't tell anyone and get out of my office." And
Harry gets off lucky again. Although befouling the castle was a little much.
Oh, entirely too much. But no harm, no foul. And the best part about this is Harry's like running out, speeding through the corridors, and then he sees Nick, and he's like, Harry, did it work? So it wasn't exactly Peeves. It was Peeves, but through Nearly Headless Nick. Nearly Headless Nick, the Gryffindor Tower ghost, had Harry's back. He was there for his Gryffindor, which I love. He persuaded Peeves to crash something, a cabinet, above
Filch's office, right? To distract him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it takes Peeves much convincing to do this kind of naughty nonsense, but it worked. How cool is that?
Harry's like, oh, that was you? Thanks.
Yeah. Now, here's an opportunity, right? In the give and take of life, he did something for Harry, and now he's going to ask Harry for something for him. It kind of just works out that way. So he's
it's not like he did it to get anything back. It just kind of Harry's super grateful, and he's like, yeah, because Harry's super grateful, and he's like, I wish there was something I could do for you.
A favor for a favor is all it is. So he's like, yeah, you can. Can you please come to my death day party? My what? On Halloween, he will celebrate his 500th death day party. Before this book, I never even imagined, I never heard of in any other book people celebrating their death day. Well, ghosts celebrating their death days. People celebrating people's anniversary if they're passing, yes. But ghosts celebrating their own death day, interesting, right?
And it must be a milestone because it's 500.
Right, yeah. And it's a big deal. That's got to be, yeah, I would imagine so. Well, is it a milestone?
I mean, isn't it? It's a 500.
I mean, okay. He's been dead a long time, basically.
Since 1492.
Yeah, 1492, man. So, Sammy, it's okay. Sorry. Oh, sleepy boy. See that? Like that?
Aw, did she wake you, Maron?
Yes.
Did her neighborhood watch activities wake the little boy?
Yes. I'm a sleepy boy.
He's got a little bedhead going on.
He always does. It's Dobby.
Little cutie patootie.
Okay, you can go back to sleep. So, do you want to go back to sleep or do you want to get down? I think he's more annoyed at his sister for waking him. So, Harry agrees. He's like, yeah, of course. Right. Okay. I'll go. And of course, Nick is so happy. He's like, my dear boy, Harry Potter at my death day party? Do you think you can possibly mention to Sir Patrick how very frightening and impressive you find me? Because remember, properly beheaded, Mr. Properly Beheaded Podmore, right? He wants to try to impress him, and who better to impress him with than Harry Potter, right? And he's like, of course, you can bring Hermione and you can bring Ron. That would be great. And so Harry runs back to Gryffindor common room to tell Hermione and Ron what he heard. How does Hermione feel about this?
Hermione's intrigued. So she's like, a death day party? I bet there aren't many living people who can say they've been to one of those. It'll be fascinating. And Ron, of course, says the same thing you said. Why would anyone want to celebrate the day they died? Sounds dead depressing to me.
That's so wrong. I love that. Yep. And it's still raining. Things are still happening. Fred and George are being Fred and George. And Harry was about to tell Hermione and Ron about the quick spell course that he found in Filch's office when, of course, Fred and George things are never dull when Fred and George are around. Cause some sort of distraction. And time passes. October is nearly ending. As Halloween approaches, Harry's
Wait. We're not going to talk about what Fred and George did?
Oh,
when
the
they
salamander?
were Fred and George? Yes. They rescued a salamander from the care of magical creatures.
They didn't rescue a salamander. They rescued a salamander.
You're right. They rescued a salamander from the care of magical creatures class, fed it some Filibuster's fireworks, and set them off in the Gryffindor common room. So when Harry was about to tell them about Filch and the quick spell course, what had happened was Fred and George set off the fireworks, and the salamander was kind of going around the room, and there was a display of tangerine stars coming out of its mouth.
Loud sparks and bangs.
Yeah.
As it whirled wildly around the room. That was the distraction.
Another something great that they could have put in the movie.
Never a dull moment with the twins.
Never. I love them so much. They're always up to something.
So he never ended up telling Hermione and Ron about the quick spell that he saw.
Because he got distracted by the fireworks salamander.
Who wouldn't? And then so Halloween is approaching, and obviously Harry is, shall we say, regretting that he promised nearly Headless Nick that he would attend his death day party, because he's like, oh, look at the Great Hall and how cool it looks and how they're decorating it all awesome, and he has to skip it to go to a death day party. Now, I have a question in my head. Why can't he go to both?
I don't know. I think that was dumb of them. They should have just made an appearance at the death day party and then went back to the feast. But for whatever reason, they stayed at the death day party too long and the feast was over. But this is where it tells you what happened with Hagrid's pumpkin. It says Hagrid's vast pumpkins had been carved into lanterns large enough for 3 men to sit in. So yeah, they had carved them into lanterns. I guess they're lighting up the Great Hall for festive lighting.
Do they work?
I mean, like you said, they probably put giant candles in them.
Right. But if it's a giant pumpkin and like pumpkin rind is really like thick, right? Everything is really, really thick about it. Unless you carve it.
Yeah, it says that it said that they were carved into lanterns.
Okay, so like they got the little window situation going.
Yeah, it says they were carved into lanterns, but that the lanterns were large enough to fit 3 men inside.
All right.
So I'm guessing they carved it into lanterns, put giant candles in there or some kind of light, because magic, and that's the festive Halloween lighting for the Great Hall.
I love that. And then, of course, Hermione being Hermione she says,
promise is a promise.
Exactly like that, right? Like, that's what I would imagine Ron to hear in his head. A promise is a promise.
Or how Ron would talk about her later when it's just him and Harry. A promise is a promise. Did you hear her? Oh.
You said you'd go to the death day party. So at 7:00, and I love the fact that he didn't actually say that Ron and Hermione were gonna go, right? Like, it could have just been him, and Ron and Hermione could have just gone. Well, Hermione was super interested, so of course she was gonna go. But I could totally see how Ron would be like, "See ya," and just go.
Not go. But Ron is super loyal to Harry, always has been, and has Harry's back no matter what. So he's probably not happy about it, but he's going as well since they're going.
Yeah. But I mean, Hermione has a point. How many living people can say that they've been to a death day party?
Very true. I mean, I totally get Hermione's stance from an educational standpoint, because she's a very curious girl. She wants to know about everything, how it works, and all of that. And even like Harry and Ron, I have a feeling, even though Ron doesn't really want to go, he's a little bit intrigued as well.
I think so too.
But again, it didn't take them long to get the feel of the party and be able to be like, all right, well, we made an appearance. We're going to head off to the feast now. Like,
I mean, to be honest, like, Bookron is highly intelligent, and I think that, like, very worldly. He's experienced a lot of things thanks to the fact that he has so many siblings, and that, you know, his parents are his parents. But I feel like it's just another thing that he can experience, right?
Yeah,
another feather in his cap.
Because none of them knew anything about a death day party until Nick invited Harry. So it's like a once in a lifetime kind of thing. And Ron is smart. Book Ron is smart and curious. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was like, I got to see this. I got to see what's going on here.
Yeah. Now, I love the juxtaposition in the book where it says, like, at 7:00, Harry, Ron, and Hermione walked straight past the doorway to the packed Great Hall, which was glittering invitingly with gold plates and candles, and directed their steps instead towards the dungeons. And here, the dungeons were also decorated, however, with long, thin, jet black tapers, all burning bright blue, casting a dim, ghostly light even over their own living faces. And of course, as we know in the books, and I feel like as we know in other folklore or understanding of ghosts, when a ghost passes through you, or when you're near a ghost, the temperature drops. I feel like this isn't just in Harry Potter. I feel like this is in many other places where they just say that, like, ghosts are cold to normal human beings, to alive humans. So it gets colder, right? As they get closer and closer, it gets colder and colder. And
because there's a congregation of ghosts.
Yeah. And then they hear what sounds like 1,000 fingernails scraping an enormous blackboard. Are you okay with that sound?
God, no. Not even like one set of fingernails, let alone 1,000. Oh my God.
Even now, because now we use whiteboards for the most part, right? Even now, like when you have the whiteboard marker and it makes that like sound.
Yep.
Or when I wash dishes and I wash something that's like stainless steel or something, and I pull it, and there's like, it makes that water sound, like, oh. Okay.
And Ron's the first one to figure out that that's supposed to be music.
Right? Can you please tell us how nearly headless Nick greets them at the door?
My dear friends, he said mournfully, welcome, welcome. So pleased you could come.
And then he bowed at them.
He took off his hat and bowed at them and let them in.
Yeah. So, like, here's something that humans who are alive, are not very privy to, right? This is the part that Hermione was like, dude, we're gonna get to see something that is so unique, right? Such a rare experience. The dungeon was full of hundreds of pearly white translucent people, mostly drifting around a crowded dance floor. Do you think that means, oh yes, waltzing to the dreadful quivering sound of 30 musical saws? That was the orchestra. 30 musical saws. I could see why it sounded like nails on a chalkboard. And they said that it felt like stepping into a freezer. Nah.
And Ron's like, careful, don't walk through anyone, as they decide they're going to move around the room and take it in.
And then Hermione sees someone. As they walk through, they see a lot of people. They see the Fat Friar, which is the Hufflepuff ghost. They see the Bloody Baron, who is the Slytherin ghost. All different kinds of... the Fat Friar was talking to a knight. This knight happened to have an arrow sticking out of his forehead. How nice is that? Oh, that's a good costume for a Harry Potter party.
The ghost with the arrow sticking out of its forehead?
Yeah, just get like a knight costume and glue an arrow to your forehead.
And there was also a group of gloomy nuns.
How do you make yourself gloomy? Oh, sorry. It moved you.
I mean, you would behave gloomily. They're just a bunch of nuns, but they're not peppy nuns. They're gloomy nuns.
Okay. Can you make your makeup a little bit bluish tint?
Probably. You'd have to be a ghost nun and then just be all gloomy from there.
Yeah. All right. So then we have... Oh, they find Moaning Myrtle, right? At this point in time, they run into Moaning Myrtle, and Hermione's like, oh no, turn away, because Moaning Myrtle she haunts the toilets in the girls' bathroom, and Ron's like, she haunts toilets? And they're like, yeah, she haunts toilets, all right? And nobody goes in there because she floods the bathroom. She has tantrums. She's just, a piece of work of a ghost.
It's awful trying to have a pee with her wailing at you.
Yeah. I say I wouldn't go in there either, I guess.
Probably
someone is wailing at you while you pee. And then, of course, Ron being Ron is like, oh, look, food! Which is exciting to Ron. However, would you like to share what the food was like? paint a picture for us?
Oh boy. On the other side of the dungeon was a long table, also covered in black velvet. They approached it eagerly, but next moment had stopped in their tracks, horrified. The smell was quite disgusting. Large rotten fish were laid on handsome silver platters. Cakes burned charcoal black were heaped on salvers. There was a great maggoty haggis, a slab of cheese covered in furry green mold, and in pride of place, an enormous gray cake in the shape of a tombstone, with tar-like icing forming the words, Sir Nicholas de Mimsey Porpington, died 31st October, 1492.
And now at this point in time, Harry watches as a ghost, mind you, a ghost is a ghost, translucent, can walk through things, right? Opens his mouth wide, like, just and walks through some food, some stinking salmon. Walks through the food with his mouth open. And then Harry's like, can you taste it? Can you taste it if you walk through it? And the ghost sadly says, almost. So what's the point? I mean, okay, it's a celebration, blah, blah, blah. But, like, they can't even taste. That's just a waste of food. Right? That's just a waste of food.
I mean, because whoever thought they would read the term maggoty haggis?
Or how about so they encounter Peeves, and Peeves offers them peanuts covered in fungus.
Yum.
Nibbles? Would you like some? And
then Peeves being Peeves.
Yeah. Peeves being Peeves. What does Peeves do?
Peeves says, oh, I heard you guys were talking about Myrtle. And Hermione's like, oh no, don't tell her that we were talking about her, please, please. And he's like, oh no. And Myrtle comes over. She comes over and she has the glummest face that Harry's ever seen. And she's like, what? And Hermione's like, how are you, Myrtle? And she's trying to be all upbeat. And it's nice to see you out of the toilet. And Peeves says, Miss Granger was just talking about you. And Hermione's like, yeah, I was saying how nice you look tonight. And she's like glaring at Peeves like, please, please, please. And Myrtle looks at Hermione kind of suspiciously. And she's like, you're making fun of me. And silver tears start welling in her eyes already. And Hermione's like, no, really. I saw how nice you... Don't you guys think Myrtle looks nice? And she's nudging Harry and Ron. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's what she said. And Myrtle's like, don't lie to me. And it's over from there. Yeah.
I know what people call me behind my back. Fat Myrtle, ugly Myrtle, miserable, moaning, moping Myrtle. You forgot Pimply, said Peeves. Oh, and then Peeves just starts running after her, throwing moldy peanuts at her, saying, Pimply, Pimply. That just adding salt to the wound.
Because she burst into tears and ran off anyway, but Peeves, who thought all of it was funny, went behind her and was throwing peanuts at her because, thanks, Peeves, why not?
Yeah, because Peeves. And so finally, Nearly Headless Nick comes around, and he's like, oh, thank you guys. Are you having a good time? Thanks for coming, right? And he's like, oh, yes, we're having a great time. The three of them. And he's looking around, he's like, well, not a bad turnout, right? And I don't know how you reply to that.
Well, the Wailing Widow came all the way from Kent.
Yeah. I mean, good on the Wailing Widow. So he's like, oh, okay, I'm about to give my speech. And all of a sudden, a dozen ghost horses come through the wall, each ridden by a headless horseman. And of course, Sir Properly Decapitated Podmore is gonna be amongst them, right? And there he is, sure enough. Nick, how are you? Head still hanging in there? Like, that's so mean. He can't control the fact that he wasn't properly decapitated. That's on somebody else, right? But there he is, rubbing it in. And of course, he's like, yeah, he's upset that we won't let him join the hunt. And Harry, adorably, I think Nick's very frightening. And what does Sir Properly Decapitated Podmore have to say about that?
Bet he asked you to say that.
Right? Like, I bet you he asked you to talk him up. And I mean, he did, right? Anyway,
and then Nick interrupts everybody loudly. It's time for my speech. It's time for my speech.
But like how my late lamented lords, ladies, and gentlemen, it is my great sorrow. What a way to start a speech. And of course, nobody hears anything else. Because
Sir Patrick and the rest of the Headless Hunt started playing head hockey at that moment.
Had to start in, right? And then they're like, okay, we need to go now. We've had enough of all this celebration and gaiety. We gotta go.
No. Specifically, Ron mutters, I can't stand much more of this.
And they're hoping, of course, Ron, again, being that the pudding might not be finished yet. And then Harry heard it. What did Harry hear?
So they're leaving, and as they start to walk out into the hallway, Harry hears the voice again. Rip, tear, kill.
Dun, dun, dun. It was the same voice that he heard in Lockhart's office. It's the voice again. Shut up a minute. So hungry for so long. Kill. Time to kill. And the voice is getting fainter, and Harry starts running after it. Ron and Hermione don't hear anything. They're like thinking he's crazy, but they're still following him. And Harry's like, shh. And then he can hear it again. I smell blood. I smell blood. And Harry, of course, mind you, Hermione and Ron don't hear anything this whole time. And Harry's like, it's gonna kill someone. And, I mean, of course that's going to make you think, what? Like, that's crazy. And starts running through the whole second floor. They keep following him. And of course, there's nothing in that walkway, in that corridor. It's deserted. And Ron's like, what was that all about? But Hermione says, look. And what do they see?
Something was shining on the wall ahead. They approached slowly, squinting through the darkness. Foot-high words had been daubed on the wall between two windows, shimmering in the light cast by the flaming torches. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the Heir, beware.
What's that thing hanging underneath? said Ron in a slightly quiver in his voice.
And they get closer.
It was Mrs. Norris!
Hanging by her tail from a torch bracket.
That's gross. She was stiff as a board, her eyes wide and staring. They tried, Harry was like, should we try to help? But literally, Ron was like, trust me, we don't want to be found here. We need to get out of Dodge. And that makes sense. I mean, Filch being Filch and being so protective over his cat. And like we said, the connection that they have, seemingly otherworldly or magical connection that they have, that's definitely not where you'd want to be found. But it was too late. Dun, dun, dun. Here comes all the people out of the feast. The feast just ended. So from all sides of the corridor, people are coming. They're coming from the left, they're coming from the right, and Harry and Ron and Hermione are stood right in the middle, right in front of the wall, right next to the frozen, stiff as a board, seemingly dead cat. And then, of course, someone shouts through the silence, "Enemies of the air, beware! You'll be next, mudbloods." And who was that?
Who else? Pointy face, pale blonde Draco Malfoy, the magicist. I don't know, what's a magic racist? A blood racist magic person.
Yeah! The elitist.
And of course he was grinning.
Yeah, of course he was.
And that's the end of the chapter.
And that's it. That was, yeah, there was a lot. And now, book versus a movie?